All right, so questions on the study guide. So the spermatogenic cells, they're the ones that turn into sperm.
So what are what's the genesis one then?
Oh, I'm sorry. So that's the process.
Oh, okay.
The genesis is like the verb, or is that a noun? It's the process. I guess that makes it a noun.
And then the other one is
The actual cells that are going to turn into sperm. All right, let's go ahead and take our quiz then. All right, so what's the fibrous capsule inside the testes called? It's the tunica vaginalis. I know, right?
The name? I don't know why.
Yeah, it's kind of,
Yeah.
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 That's why I put it on there, just to remind you that is part of the male system. Where are sperm made? Is it the seminiferous tubule, scrotum, or tunica? Seminiferous. Seminiferous. Say that 10 times fast. Which of these is not an accessory male sex gland? They all are. And they're glands because they produce like fluids and whatnot. Secrete stuff. Which of these is a muscle? Dartos. And which cells produce testosterone? Interstitial. Exactly. Yeah, the male system's a little bit easier to understand, I would say. All right, so just to kind of remind you why we do meiosis, what it is. So obviously, mitosis, you already learned about. Wound repair, it's replacing all the cells of your body all the time. Growth of a baby, all that stuff. But meiosis is when you're making haploid gametes, either sperm or eggs. What does haploid mean? Half of something. So it's half the chromosomes of your other cells. I heard you were whispering that kind of. And that's because if you're going to make a baby, it better have the right amount of chromosomes, hopefully. So that means the sperm needs to have half of them, and the egg has to have half of them. So they have a whole separate process, which is meiosis, which you learned about in 201 back in chapter 3. That's the process. So in males, that's happening in the seminiferous tubule. In females, where do you think it's happening? It's in the ovaries, right? All right. The main thing that people get mixed up on is they think that meiosis is sexual reproduction or something. It's not. That's like the next step. Meiosis is only making those cells. And then sexual reproduction is the fertilization part. So it's separate. And I think it's confusing because, you need meiosis to do sexual reproduction. But meiosis is its own. It's like the first step. All right, so components. You've got the testes that make the sperm, epididymis. It's kind of the tubes for storing it. Vas deferens, that's the first duct. And it takes them from the epididymis all the way to the ejaculatory duct. It's a foot long. It's a pretty long duct when you think about things in your body. And we'll see a picture of that one. And then the ejaculatory duct goes from vas deferens through the prostate to the urethra. And the urethra is the exit point. All right, there's our different glands and what they make. So seminal vesicles, they make like most of the secretion, 60% of the volume. And it's alkaline fluid and fructose. And so the reason those are there, alkaline fluid, that's basic, right? So it counteracts the acidic environment that the sperm are headed to. And fructose is energy for the sperm. Because they've got mitochondria, they're going to need energy to do all that swimming they've got to do. Prostate, citric acid, it's also energy. And an antibiotic, no one really knows why it's in there. There's some ideas, but there's no like proof why that's there. And then more alkaline fluid from the bulbourethral glands. All right, what else? Here's the picture of the whole thing. We'll look at the testes like a little more detail in a little bit, but you can see the epididymis right on there. It's kind of its separate structure. I got to see those a lot when I was doing a bunch of mice castrations. So you'd like snip open the scrotum, pull the little testes out, and you'd always see like this epididymis just kind of hanging out to the side. Did that to cats? Calves? It's fun. I know, otherwise it wouldn't taste very good, right? It's true. I remember at my grandpa's ranch, they used to do it to cats with like no anesthesia or anything. It's like the country way, and they'd like put them in a bag, like a burlap sack, and like just pull them out the side. It just seems really horrible. How many people like to eat those? Ramen oysters? Anybody? Yeah? There's no way I would ever eat that. There's no way. Yeah?
We do too. They love enough fries.
Uh-huh. 750 pounds? Oh my goodness. That's crazy. All right, so anyways, seems kind of strange. Like how is that vas deferens a foot long? Like that distance isn't a foot, right? And that's because it starts at the epididymis and takes this crazy roundabout path. So it goes past the bladder, around, and then that's kind of the end of it there. So there's the seminal vesicle. Where's our other glands? There's the prostate. And the bulbourethral gland is right there. And then the ejaculatory duct is pretty short. It just goes from the end of the vas deferens to the urethra right here. And here's the bladder, the urethra. So that's where they kind of meet up. Maybe you've wondered why they're hanging out there. It's mostly temperature, at least we think. And that's because, for whatever reason, and I put that why there, but actually turns out we don't know why it's most efficient, but that's the most efficient temperature to make sperm is 35. What's your body temperature in Celsius? It's like around 37. So it's like 2 degrees Celsius, which is what, like 3 degrees Fahrenheit or so. And you maintain that temperature by moving them closer or farther away from the body. Closer warms them up, farther away cools them down. Kind of interesting, I think. And it's the dartos and the cremaster muscles that kind of respond to that. Also, what do you think the fight or flight response would do to this? Yeah. Why would you do that? Why would it do that?
Fight or flight.
Yeah, it's safety. Because thinking about evolution stuff, like if those get damaged, your genes don't get passed on. So you want to save them away, keep them. All right, you can resort to less extreme measures, I think. All right, so to make sperm, got to go through meiosis. It's happening all the time after puberty, just constantly. I forget the number, but it's a lot. So you start with diploid cells. They're basically sperm or stem cells. They divide in half. One of them stays as a stem cell, and then the other one is going to go into meiosis. So it becomes a spermatocyte, divides once to make a secondary spermatocyte, and then it divides again to make 4 spermatids. And that N number, 2N is diploid, N is haploid. So down here you've got haploid cells, and then they develop in the seminiferous tubule to the completed sperm there with their little tails. Right, so that's all that. I think I said all that. Once the sperm get developed, they actually move through the ret. Actually, I forgot how to say that word. Actually, yeah, rete, I don't know. Testes, and they go to the epididymis, and they kind of complete their development or learn to swim. Kind of get completely developed there. And this picture kind of shows you. So there's all these little compartments that are the seminiferous tubules. And then as they get closer to being completed, they come over here to the rake testes and get pushed along into the epididymis. And so that's what's full of, mature functional sperm. And then here's the vas deferens, also known as the ductus deferens. There's a little sperm, so it's got the head, which is mostly just the nucleus. The neck is full of mitochondria, because obviously they need energy. And then the tail, for movement. It's a little mini propeller there. One thing, it's kind of fun. Heard about the guy who invented the microscope in England, like in the 1700s or something. So one of the first things he was asked to do, and this is by like the Royal Science Society of England, is find out what's in semen or whatever they called it back then. Because no one knew how reproduction worked. They're like, you do this, and then somehow a baby starts growing. Like they didn't know it was like sperm or eggs. Like no one really knew how it worked at all. And so that's one of the first things he was asked to look at, which is kind of interesting little tidbit. It's like, don't look at plants, don't look at this. I'm like, find out what's in there. We want to see how babies are made. And here's, so because so many sperm are made like all the time, the body doesn't worry too much about making perfect ones. Because if you've got 1 million of them, do you need all of them to be perfect? Or can 10% of them be all messed up, right? Doesn't matter. So you've got normal ones. So you can end up with all these different sperm morphologies. That's normal. And you can see a bunch of examples of messed up ones. So if you're doing like some kind of, fertility testing, they look at the number, but then they also look at the morphology to see if there's something like, do all of the sperm look like that? That's probably going to mess things up a little bit. All right. So what about hormones? There's lots of hormones involved in this. That's what we're going to spend most of our time on. So at puberty, way up in the hypothalamus, it's signaled to produce the GnRH, which is gonadotropin-releasing hormone. Do you remember learning about it in chapter 18? Wait, we didn't do that yet, right? That's the last chapter, or second to last. So you'll see more about it, but it's made there, goes to the pituitary, and it tells the pituitary gland, which is also up by the brain, to to make two other hormones, luteinizing and follicle stimulating hormone. Kind of a surprise, females also have those hormones. And they were kind of named for that, right? Males don't have follicles, but it turns out we do have that hormone. And the luteinizing hormone tells those interstitial cells to make testosterone, and the follicle stimulating hormone tells the testes to make more sperm, basically. So at puberty, you know, more testosterone, start making sperm. That's kind of the idea. And it wouldn't be an anatomy class without some feedback loops. It's a good thing we have, though. I mean, you don't want excessive testosterone, right? Roid rage, craziness. So you got the GnRH, the LH, FSH, and then it's all kind of controlled by negative feedback. So testosterone's made, and it tells the hypothalamus to stop making GnRH, and it tells the pituitary to stop making LH as well. So you're stopping in two places. And then for follicle stimulating hormone, when you're making all those sperm, it also makes inhibin, which goes and tells the pituitary to stop making FSH once you have like enough sperm. Yeah, and we're going to practice a little bit too. But yeah, this would be the slide to look at. And one more thing, though. Testosterone is actually not all that strong of a hormone. Most of its effects are after it gets turned into dihydrotestosterone, or DHT. And so that causes, you know, making males look like males, right? After puberty. But you do make some before, because obviously boys look different than girls, right? And then at puberty, you get all those changes. And this is interesting, anabolism. So it tells you to make basically more proteins, muscles bigger, because obviously men have just larger muscles on average, just because. That's from DHT as well. And they shouldn't. I don't really know, because the prostate's way up here. It's not like in the testes. I haven't heard of the lower. Is that a common problem, you think? Take out prostate and get low testosterone? Huh.
I don't know why.
I don't know why either. Look that
I
one
don't know
up.
if it's like in general, like you just know, but
I mean, I do.
know. I know it's like a side effect.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly know why you have issues with incontinence, right?
Right.
Because look, the urethra goes right through there,
Yeah.
like in the middle of it. So, you know, how do you take that out and keep all these muscles and pieces all together?
People with low testosterone, they get injections
Yeah.
with testosterone.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you ever watch sports or listen to sports on the radio, that's like all the ads you hear. Are you tired? Do you not feel like you're 18 anymore? Maybe you have low T.
Yeah.
Maybe, or maybe you're just older.
Maybe you're not 18 anymore.
Right, I mean, that's basically what they say. Have you heard those ads?
Yeah.
Somebody, yeah.
Yeah, they're usually at a gas pump.
Oh, at a gas pump too?
And they
Interesting.
say, you know, with low testosterone, actually develop osteoporosis
Yeah.
as they get older too.
Yeah. So, I mean, not to disparage it, I think low T is like a real condition, but I think it's quite a bit overprescribed.
Right.
And that can actually damage your heart. So, it's probably not the best thing. Although we'll see, my grandpa's been on it for like 10 years. He's no problems yet. So. Oh, one other thing that's I think interesting with testosterone's not up there. Have you noticed that men hold their fat in different places? So where do guys mostly have their fat usually? Right? It's like all like abdominal. So you could see like, you know, a guy who's really fat, he's got this big belly and just like normal everywhere else. That's hormonally influenced by testosterone and estrogen. So high testosterone puts fat there. High estrogen puts fat basically everywhere else. It's like more hips and other places. Have you ever kind of wondered why that difference is there? Hey, you can go get some low T patches.
I don't know how you explain that to you.
You might get some, you might have some other male features come out that you might not want as much, like a beard or, but hey, it's up to you. I wonder what they would do at one of those centers if you went in there and you're like, I think I have low T. They're like,
I think so too. Ma'am?
That'd be funny.
I don't know, it's not me.
All right, so I've got a little review for all these hormones, especially because I think last time I did this chapter, we had done the hormone chapter already, so I kind of forgot. Maybe before we do all that, what is a hormone, just in general? Okay, how does it travel around? It is part of the endocrine system and it travels in the blood. It's a chemical, it binds to cells or goes inside of cells and like tells them to do stuff.
And the testes.
So hypothalamus and pituitary in the brain, and then the testes is kind of the response organ.
In the hypothalamus, certain neurosecretory cells secrete gonadotropin-releasing hormone. Gonadotropin-releasing hormone is carried by the blood to the anterior pituitary, where it binds to receptors on gonadotropes and stimulates the cells to increase secretion of two gonadotropic hormones, luteinizing hormone, or LH, and follicle-stimulating hormone, or FSH. LH and FSH are transported in the blood to the testes. LH and FSH both indirectly affect spermatogenesis. LH binds to receptors on Leydig cells between seminiferous tubules and stimulates the secretion of testosterone. Under the influence of FSH and testosterone, Sertoli cells produce androgen-binding protein. ABP binds to testosterone and maintains high levels of the hormone near the spermatogenic cells.
You don't need to worry about that.
Under the influence of testosterone, Sertoli cells nurture the stem cells and the developing sperm cells. Testosterone stimulates the final stages of spermatogenesis. In addition, testosterone is converted into dihydrotestosterone, another hormone that may promote sperm cell formation. Testosterone and dihydrotestosterone both bind to the same intranuclear receptors. Together, the androgens regulate male prenatal development and the development of male sexual characteristics. Sertoli cells release the protein hormone inhibin when the level of spermatogenesis required for male reproductive functions has been attained. Inhibin is delivered by the blood to the gonadotropic cells within the anterior pituitary. Inhibin acts on the gonadotropes to reduce FSH secretion and thereby decreases the rate of spermatogenesis. Similarly, testosterone acts in a negative feedback manner on anterior pituitary gonadotropes to suppress the secretion of LH. The negative feedback effect of testosterone also involves its effect on the hypothalamus, the result of which is decreased secretion of gonadotropin-releasing hormone. Decreased secretion of gonadotropin-releasing hormone causes a corresponding decrease in the secretion of both LH and FSH. The decrease in LH causes a decrease in the secretion of testosterone by the Leydig cells in the testes. Low levels of testosterone reduce spermatogenesis. Conversely, an excessive decrease in testosterone allows the hypothalamus to increase its secretion of gonadotropin.
All right. I think probably enough. All right, so I've got some questions for you to work on. Oh, actually, we skipped one. Let's do number 1 first. So just work on that one with your group, and then we'll go over it, and then we'll go on to the next one. Kind of forgot about the basics. So question 1 for now. Yeah, and once you get that first table, I guess you can go on to 2, 3, and 4 with your group there. All right.
Okay.
I have a couple movies to show you. All right, so this is going to show you the pathway that the sperm take from
Organs of the male
very
reproductive
beginning.
system include the testes, seminiferous tubules, epididymis, ducts, urethra, and penis. The seminal vesicle and prostate and bulbourethral glands produce nourishing fluid for the sperm. The testes subdivide into lobules that contain seminiferous tubules that produce sperm. Sperm moves from the seminiferous tubules to the efferent tubules to the epididymis where they mature. The end of the epididymis forms the ductus deferens or vas deferens. This structure ascends the posterior border of the testes, penetrates the inguinal canal, enters the pelvic cavity, and loops over and around the urinary bladder. The seminal vesicles are glands at the base of the bladder that produce seminal fluid. Together with the ductus deferens, they form the ejaculatory ducts. During ejaculation, these ducts eject sperm into the male urethra, the common passageway for urine and sperm. The prostate gland surrounds the prostatic urethra just below the bladder. The fluid it secretes goes through small ducts into the prostatic urethra. The bulbourethral glands produce alkaline mucus secretions that empty into the urethra. The urethra passes through the penis carrying semen, a mixture of sperm and secretions of the glands. During ejaculation, the smooth muscle sphincter at the base of the bladder closes off to ensure that no urine is expelled and that semen does not enter the urinary bladder. Sperm moves from the seminiferous tubules to the epididymis, to the ductus deferens, to the ejaculatory duct, to the outside of the body by the urethra.
So based on all that, where's this picture? How do you think vasectomies work? Maybe you know already. So down here, so down here, just cut it, tie it off. One crazy story I heard about that at a friend of a friend. This is true. He had vasectomy. He had like a bike accident. Like he fell off and hit like the bar on the bike really bad. And then his wife got pregnant, and he was going to divorce her because he thought she was cheating on him.
I have an army friend who went to Germany, and after 8 years it came untied by himself.
It came untied.
Ah, she's pregnant, yeah. Poor guy has like a 27-year-old with a baby.
Well, you can impregnate someone up to like, isn't it like months after it's done still?
Really?
Yeah, you have to
Oh, I didn't know that.
tested. Yeah, you
Huh.
have to go get it tested to make sure that. And then
I wonder
you
why
have to
that
get
is.
tested after 8 years.
Hanging out in there, I guess.
I guess it's where we're hanging out, or maybe it's not completely.
The ones that are left.
Yeah. And so that's why you can get it reversed, right? They just kind of reattach it. Kind of crazy. What do you think happens to what happens to these sperm down here if you cut that off? Yeah, they're just going to get reabsorbed, get remade. That's what you're saying, like the 2-month thing. You still have some sperm kind of in there and there. Yeah.
Then he got remarried and wants kids, and they said instead of getting like a vascular vasectomy,
Yeah.
he's gonna like go in and get sperm.
Right.
It's still in there, but it's just not.
Yeah, so you still make new sperm constantly. They just can't get out, so they probably just go in there and take some out of the epididymis and just do IVF, I guess.
I'd rather do the reversal,
Because then he'd have to get it.
Oh, right.
so they want to pay like 20, it's like 12,000.
Maybe it's not IVF. Maybe there's something in between they could do. Is it? Okay.
They do IUI, which was take a tube and then put it
Whoops.
They were going to yeah, it's called IUI.
Could you imagine trying not to do it and then be like, okay.
All right. So we're actually going to look at. I had to order new penis slides.
Oh, I remember you said you were still.
Yeah. Well, I had one and it disappeared. So we get to look at a penis slide in lab next week. And if you look at super zoomed out, it looks very hollow, right? It's kind of the idea. And so you've got, arteries going in there, and then what's around it is just called, what do they call it? The spongiosa. I can't remember. It's a bunch of hollow areas, basically.
Oh my God, that's so sad.
So what happens during an erection? It's the parasympathetic nervous system. You remember learning about that one? And it could be brought on physical, mental, or just from high blood pressure. Could even cause it. And what happens is you get a bunch of vasodilation of the arteries, fills up with blood. You know the rest, I hope. I have a 3D animation even.
Close your eyes,
Male erection begins
Okay.
with stimulation, visual, psychological, or physical. When the brain perceives stimulation and excitement, it sends signals down the spinal cord. The
Is this
signals
working?
travel to nerve endings in two spongy tubes in the penis called the corpora cavernosa. The nerve endings release the chemical compound nitric oxide into the blood vessels of the corpora cavernosa and surrounding tissues. The nitric oxide stimulates production of cyclic guanosine monosulfate, or CGMP. CGMP causes smooth muscles in the walls of the arteries, bringing blood into the penis to relax. When the walls of the arteries relax, blood flow into the corpora cavernosa increases. At the same time, the walls of the veins carrying blood out of the penis contract, so blood cannot flow out. As the arteries become full of blood, the penis becomes longer and harder, producing an erection. The erection is maintained as long as the nerve endings in the corpora cavernosa receive signals from the brain. When the brain is no longer stimulated, an enzyme called phosphodiesterase, or PDE5, is released. PDE5 causes the breakdown of CGMP. The smooth muscles in the artery walls contract, stopping the flow of blood into the penis. And the walls of the veins relax so blood can flow out.
All right, that was a very mild animation.
He did not at all sound very excited to be saying all of that.
Wow. It's always funny, like in my office, erection animation. They're like, related videos you might like. I'm like, no. It's no, thank you, YouTube. Thank you. It's terrible. So while we're on there, may as well talk about Viagra. It's kind of fun. So if you're having, issues with that, Viagra blocks that enzyme PDE5. So you maintain CGMP for a lot longer. And you remember that was the signal from nitric oxide that caused the vasodilation of the arteries, constricted the veins. So it makes that signal last longer.
So you call your doctor after 4 hours.
So that's actually the idea. So, if you do have that problem, then just slowing it down a little bit will make things normal. But, could it be too much? Yeah, that's why they have to say that in the commercials, right? So especially if like a health person who doesn't have that problem, they have normal amounts of all this stuff, that's probably going to have that priapism thing we talked about, where it doesn't go away Because, yeah, you're not getting rid of the signal. All right. And this is one of the only cases where you get sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic sort of at the same time. And it's sympathetic that actually causes the ejaculation process. And it's smooth muscles that are just pushing everything out. What was I talking about? I think we did all that. We did vasectomies. Did you do the path of sperm when we watched the video?
Yeah. It was hard, and I only did like abbreviation.
Well, I don't want to watch it. I didn't get, it's in kind of lost.
We can go back to the diagram real quick. Whoops. Too far, too far. All right, so zoom in a little bit. Where's that one? So they, oh wait, where did it say to start? Testes, yeah. So they're made in the seminiferous tubule. They go through the rate testes to the epididymis. So seminiferous tubule, rate testes, epididymis. And then after they go there, then they go through the vas deferens, and one on each side, obviously. So vas deferens, and then they get to the ejaculatory duct, and then the urethra. You don't need to worry about the gland part, because they don't go through the glands, right? They're in those tubules, and the glands are kind of next to it. Right. Have you heard of those special bike seats? Have you seen them? Like they tell men if they bike too much, they can get sterile.
With the gap in
You're cutting off
Right? Circulation, and also like I think you're sitting on a bike seat, you're sitting, like all that pressure's right there.
You know what's worse than
Or
a
here.
bicycle
What?
is unicycling. You don't even have your arms, you're just crushing those bad boys.
Ross will never have kids.
That's his form of
That's too bad because unicycles attract women like so much. You know?
knitting while he's doing that.
It's terrible. All right, I guess I'm done with the male stuff. You got any questions? Do I? Oh, they cut the vas deferens before it leaves, like in the testes, basically. So like right around there. Yeah. Next time we'll talk about the birth control methods and the table.
Like, no, not using that.